Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us. My name is Christine Hall, and I'm the founder of the MAWB, the Mississauga Area Women in Business. And today's Lunch and Learn session is going to be, we're going to be hearing from Marni, who is a web designer, web developer. I'm going to let her introduce herself because I've cut into her time a little bit with the networking. And she's going to be sharing with us today ways that we can, as many of us may be non-techie, ways that we can help ensure or increase our security for home and business use. So welcome, Marni. Thanks very much for being here. I'm going to let you take it away. You can go ahead and share your screen now as well.
Okay, I'm just going to do a little intro and I'll talk to you face to face first. Hi, I'm Marni Cleiman. I'm the owner and web designer at MDC Designs. I've been a professional graphic designer for almost 20 years, and I started as a freelancer in the nonprofit sector. From there, I opened my first business, which was designing wedding invitations. So a few years ago, I saw that the wedding industry was kind of changing, so I decided that I would actually transition again. And I decided to do what I'd been doing on the side for all these years, pretty much since I started freelancing, which was designing websites. And I made this my full-time job just about a year before the pandemic started. So it was pretty good timing for me. Online security is an important part of my business, although I don't consider myself a security expert by any means. Really, I still consider myself a graphic designer who codes, but I do deal with my clients' websites and often their passwords and banking information and credit cards. So it's really important for me that I'm not passing around malicious files and that their websites are really designed securely. So today I'm going to talk about the three main online security issues, which are phishing, hacking, and viruses. And I'm going to give you information about how to make you and your business safer on the web. For these issues, the steps that you would take as an individual and you as a business are actually the same. So these things are things you can do for both of those, both you and your business. I do want you to notice that I said safer. There's no way to make yourself completely safe on the web, but you can make yourself a more difficult target. I like to think of this like putting on the outside lights of your house. Studies have shown that if there's two houses and one has their lights on and one has their lights off, that the thief is much more likely to go to the house that has their lights off. This is making yourself that same kind of lesser target. But you really can't stop anyone who wants to really target your house. And if I have time, I'm also going to talk about website security, but I'd like to leave time to answer any questions that you might have. So let's get started. And I'm going to turn on my screen view and I'm going to get out here. All right, can you guys see my screen? Hope so. So steps to better online security.
Actually, Marni, sorry, we can't see your screen.
Nope.
Maybe I had you spotlighted earlier. Can you try that again? I took spotlight off.
Can you see my screen now?
No, I can't. How about the rest of the gang?
Nope.
Okay, so you went down to...
Let me try again. Okay. Share screen.
Yeah.
All right. That.
If that doesn't work, I'm actually going to make you full host, okay?
Okay.
Let me try that because that didn't work. So I've made you host. Okay, can you please try again now?
All right, I'm just heading back to Zoom meeting. Let's see if I...
Yay!
Says that I'm screen sharing. All right. All right, so steps to better online security for you and your business. So let's start with some stats about online security in 2021. So cybercrime is up 600% due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the cybercrime often increases in times of crisis, and unfortunately, this is no exception. Small businesses saw an increase of 424% in cyber attacks last year. And it might surprise you to know that 43% of cyber attacks target small businesses. This number has actually really increased. It was just 18% a few years ago. Larger businesses are getting a lot better about their own cybersecurity, so cyber criminals are actually turning towards smaller businesses. Cybercrime costs small and medium businesses more than $2.2 million a year. The biggest cyber attack known to date happened to Yahoo in August 2013 when 3 billion accounts were hacked. Now I put this stat in because I was actually one of those 3 billion that got hacked. So I know personally that you can't always stop your information from getting out there. Sometimes a third party has your info and they get hacked. So you have to know what to do about it at that point. And our final stat is that phishing is the most common way for hackers to infiltrate a network. It's so common that 1 in 323 emails sent to small businesses are malicious. So let's talk about phishing. Phishing is a cyber attack where a scammer uses a disguised email to trick you into clicking a malicious link, downloading malware, or sharing sensitive information like your credit card numbers or passwords. They're often generic mass messages, but the message appears to be legitimate and from a trusted source like your bank or your ISP. It's one of the oldest scams on the internet. I think we all remember the Nigerian prince who wants to send you money. Unfortunately, these scams are getting much harder to detect, and we're still much more confident about the fact that we can detect them than we really should be. In fact, in 2020, EST, a Slovak internet security company, conducted free phishing tests in Canada, and 68% of Canadian respondents couldn't tell a fake email from a real email. So how can you identify the phishing email? Because that's the most important thing in trying to avoid phishing. 1, legitimate companies don't request your sensitive information by email. Your ISP, your email, your web hosting, they already have your password. They don't want you to send it by email because it's the least secure way of getting information from you. If they want you to go to a website and put credentials in, the best thing for you to do is to use your own link. Don't click on the email. If you use a product or service from the company that's apparently sending you a message, don't click. Instead, navigate to the website via your browser bookmark or a search engine. If the email is a real email, you'll see the same information as you log into your account on the legitimate site. This is the only way to guarantee that you land on the real site. 2, legitimate companies usually call you by name. Phishing emails usually use generic salutations like "Dear valued member," "Dear account holder," or "Dear customer." I actually used to get a lot of PayPal phishing, and that was how I always knew that this was a fake, because PayPal actually specifies that it's going to use one name for you, and they tell you what the name is that they're going to use for the account. Legitimate companies have domain emails. Don't just check the name of the person sending you the email, because you can put in anything you want in the to section, so anyone can fake being whoever they want. Check to make sure that what their email address is by hovering your mouse over the from section. Make sure there's no alterations like additional numbers or letters. Check out the differences between these two. They're pretty easy to tell, when they're one on top of the other. But if you saw this in the text of an email, it's a lot harder to tell that those 1, 2, 3 aren't supposed to be in there. Just remember that this isn't a foolproof method though, because sometimes bigger companies will use subdomains or other varied domains to send their emails. And small companies like us, we sometimes use a third-party company to send our mass emails. Legit companies' links match legitimate URLs. Now, I think this is the most important one, because just because a link says it's going to send you somewhere doesn't mean that it's going to. Double check your URLs or web addresses. If the link in the text isn't identical to the URL displayed as the cursor hovers over it, that's a sure sign you're going to be taken to a website you don't want to visit. If a hyperlink URL doesn't seem correct or doesn't match the context of the email, don't trust it. Ensure additional security by mousing over the embedded links without clicking, and ensure the link begins with HTTPS. Be sure to check every link in the email. This is one of the ways the phishing is getting more sophisticated. They're using a lot more, they're using some of the real links from the brand that they're trying to mimic in the email, along with their fake links. So if you click on the contact link, you might go to the real website, but if you click the link that is asking for your info, that gets you to the fake website. If you're still unsure after that, call or email the company directly. You're not bugging them at all. In fact, you're helping them to know about the website so they can have it taken down. I've had to do this a number of times, call my credit card company, because I've gotten phone calls that I wasn't sure whether I really had fraud or I didn't have fraud, because I've actually had both. I've had real phone calls about it, and I've had fake phone calls about it. Finally, the last thing that you can do to help yourself with phishing is something that happens if you do get phished, which is set up two-factor authentication. I always want to say authentication, and I don't know why. A two-factor authentication is the most effective method for countering these attacks if your credentials do get taken, because it adds an extra verification layer when you're logging into something sensitive. It relies on having two things: something you know, like your password and username, and something that you have, like your smartphone. So even if your credentials get compromised, people still can't get in. So now that we've discussed phishing and we know that phishing tricks you into downloading malware, that's what we're going to discuss next. You might be more familiar with the term virus rather than malware. Viruses are actually a subset of malware. Malware also includes things like Trojans, ransomware, and spy bots. Malware is any type of computer code written to deliberately cause damage to a device, like a laptop, smartphone, or server. Whereas viruses are a subcategory of malware. Like biological viruses, computer viruses seek to spread and replicate themselves. And now I'm going to tell you the most important thing that I can tell you about malware. Anything that connects to the internet can get malware. That means, yes, Macs can get malware and viruses. Smartphones can get malware. Point of sale devices can get malware. Even cameras can get malware. This sounds like that Oprah Winfrey, you get this, you get that, but it's a really terrible version of it. So let me show you some real life news stories about this. This says viruses and malware on Mac computers have reached an unacceptable level. I'm actually really happy to see this story, because for years I've heard the refrain of Macs can't get viruses from clients, friends, and especially other graphic designers. Some were even told this at the Apple Store, but it's just not true. And I've been trying to tell them that for years. The truth is that Macs really do have better innate security than PCs, but they were never immune to viruses and malware. There were just less people creating malware for them because they had a smaller market share. And unfortunately, as iPhones and Macs have become more popular, there's a lot more malware out there for them. The second story is about the Internet of Things and how security experts say they're insecure. The Internet of Things is made up of things like everyday things like fridges and baby monitors, Android TV boxes and thermostats that connect to the internet. I'm sure you've seen when you've been shopping fridges that have, a screen on them that connects that to the internet, or other things like that, lots of people actually have thermostats that connect to the internet. And there's actually a joke about this in the internet community, in the tech community. And if you know anybody who works in tech, this will be familiar to you. So the tech enthusiast says, everything in my house is wired to the Internet of Things. I control it all from my smartphone. My smart house is Bluetooth enabled, and I give voice commands via Alexa. I love the future. And the security expert takes a big swig of whiskey and says, I want to live in the woods with no internet. Basically, a security expert knows how insecure these devices are and exactly how they're leveraged. And that's where my third story comes in. And this is actually a real story that happened years ago, where the cyber criminals used light bulbs that are connected to the internet, so smart light bulbs, to bring down Twitter, Reddit, and Amazon. So anything that is connected to the internet can be leveraged, can be used, can get viruses or some sort of malware. So what are the steps that you can take to make yourself safer from malware? Updates. That's the big one. Companies are always adding patches for known vulnerabilities all the time, so make sure that you keep up with them. Change the default password. There's at least one malware out there that attacks routers and other Internet of Things devices that are using their default password. So make sure that you change this. Add antivirus to your phone, computer, and tablet. Not just most people know that they need to put it on their computer, but they don't realize that their phone is just as vulnerable as their computer is. If you're going to the internet, you can get the same kind of viruses. I actually use F-Secure, which, if you're a Cogeco, in the Cogeco area, is what they, I don't think give you, they offer that to you, is probably quite the term. It works on PC, Mac, and Android devices. So I have it on my phone, computer, and tablet. There's a lot of other companies like Norton, Bitdefender, WebRoot, if you're using a PC. If you want something for your Mac, there's companies that are well-reviewed like Sophos Home, Avast, and Avira. So what else can we do? Be careful with your email attachments. We just talked about phishing, but be careful even with people that you do know. They can unknowingly send you a bad file. This actually happened to me a couple of months ago. My dad got a virus, and his email client sent emails to every single person on his contact list. Luckily, our friends and family were on it pretty fast, and he got about 50 phone calls going, "Is this you?" My favorite place to check on any email attachments is called virustotal.com. VirusTotal sends you your file to about 70 different scanners all at once. I'll show you a little bit more about this in a bit, but this to me, then if you're not just using the scanner that you have on your computer, it actually sends it to 70 of the best scanners out there. Be careful what websites you visit. Again, we discussed this with phishing. But I come across this problem even with web searches. Sometimes they're unclear about whether that's safe to go to. So I need to know a little bit more before I go to the site. So again, I use virustotal.com for this, and I can have about 70 different antivirus scanners scan the site for me. Finally, back up your computer. Unfortunately, there is some malware that is impossible to clean. There are some that boot up before your antivirus can come in, so they can't be found and they can't be cleaned. And the only answer is to reformat your computer. Also, there's some malware that lies dormant until it takes out your backup. So make sure that you have everything saved somewhere besides your computer, and that it isn't connected to your computer, because otherwise you'll lose everything. And here's what the VirusTotal page looks like. So you can see, you can put in upload your file here. You can add in the URL for the website there. I'm not exactly, I have never actually used the search part. I think that goes for domains and a few other things, but I probably use this page every day for a million different things. Okay, are there any questions before I move on? I don't even know if I know how to get everybody for questions. You're muted, Christine.
Sorry. In the top right-hand corner, go to View. There's a little button beside the, I don't know. Mine has the timer on it. Maybe yours doesn't have the timer, but there's View. And the drop-down list there shows side-by-side standard, or you can choose the gallery view. And that should allow you to see everyone.
Oh, I can see the chats now. Yeah. All right, let's see what I have here.
Someone just rang the doorbell, ladies. I'll be right back.
Okay. You can get a virus on a backup drive because you can put your virus from your computer. If you already have a virus, you can put that virus onto your backup drive. For your phone, there's lots of things that, as I said, I use F-Secure. That's on my phone. It's on everything I have. I'm on PC and Android, but I know that there's lots of different things that work on everything. Like I think Avast works on, I think it works on phone, Mac. They have a Mac version and they have a PC version. So it depends on what you have in your house. I'm on Android and PC. So that's what I'm using, but I know that, I would go to something like PC Mag and they have, or just look for recommendations on the internet. They have lots of reviews on different things. I found a bunch of things on something called Mac Reviews that just said a bunch of good things just for Mac computers and phones. All right, I think I will move on, and we're gonna go to hacking breaches. All right, so hacking breaches occur when there is an unauthorized entry point in a corporation's database that allows cyber hackers to access customer data such as passwords, credit card numbers, social security numbers, banking information, driver's license numbers, medical numbers, and other sensitive information. As I mentioned before, I've been part of one of these big hacking breaches. My password was stolen in the big Yahoo attack. Now, there was nothing I could do in that case to prevent that one, as a third party got hacked. But what can you do to make sure that you're not the one who gets breached? Or if you do, it's not an even bigger problem. 1, update your software. Outdated software can create holes in websites that allow attackers to sneak in and steal data. 2, avoid oversharing online. Don't post information that can be used for your security questions, like your mother's maiden name or your first pet. I've actually seen a lot of posts lately on Facebook about the quizzes and that very issue. And not for online issues, but for your house safety, don't post when you're going on vacation. It's also really bad. And a lot of people have gotten their house broken into because of it. Use secure URLs. Only use sites that begin with HTTPS. The S is key in knowing that you have a reputable site. Never give your credit card information or other personal information to sites without the S. The S stands for secure. Avoid using weak passwords. According to wired.com, the 2 most common passwords used for the past 7 years are 123456 and password. If you use these, you're making it really easy for someone to get your info. Hackers try these common passwords everywhere, looking for people who use them. Based on a 2018 Verizon report, over 81% of data breaches involve people using simple passwords. Also, don't reuse your passwords. The average person only uses 13 different passwords, and this leaves their accounts really vulnerable to attacks. There's online forums that exist on the dark web that where every account is cracked, has their credentials posted. So every time anything is cracked, all that information goes up into a public forum that criminals are looking at. So hackers will try every cracked password on your accounts. If you reuse them, you can get yourself into much more of a problem than just from that one hack. So I know you're probably thinking to yourself right now, how am I supposed to remember all those different passwords? And you're absolutely right. And nobody can. The average person, they think, has about 70 to 100 passwords. So what security experts are now recommending for all of us is a password manager or a password keeper. A password manager is a software application designed to store and manage your online credentials. It also generates passwords. Usually these passwords are stored in an encrypted database and locked behind a master password. So why use a password keeper? You only need to remember one strong password, and that's your master password. 2, they help generate better passwords. And I don't know if you're like me, but I hate coming up with passwords. So I love this feature. And 3, you can share passwords securely with some of the password managers. This is really important to me because as a web designer, I often need to exchange passwords with my clients. And I definitely don't want them sending it to me by email because it's really the least secure way to send passwords. Also, never send credit card information. And I only say this because this has happened to me once where a client really did send me their credit card information. Not because I expect anybody to actually do that, but it did happen. So there are some great password managers on the market now. Some are free and some aren't. A few names of the ones that are well rated are Dashlane, Bitwarden, NordPass, LogMeOnce, and LastPass. I actually use LastPass with my clients as I find it really user-friendly and easy to use. If you're adding your credentials into a website, it just asks you whether you want to save it. You say yes, and that's it. It's a lot like using your browser password manager, but it's a lot more secure than that. On some of the paid versions of the managers, they actually have a feature to let you know if one of your passwords has been compromised. I think that there's actually a better way to do that though, which is this website called haveibeenpwned.com, haveibeenpwned.com. This is a free and totally legitimate website. I say that because it's a little bit scary. It's run by a website security researcher, and it's totally safe. He gathers all the information from unsafe places so that people can check to see whether their accounts are compromised. As I said, it's a little bit scary to put your stuff in, but it is a really good resource. It also shows you, if you go up here to who's been pwned, bigger companies that have been breached. So you can see whether it's anybody that you do business with and whether those passwords have to be changed. So I asked a friend of mine who works in online security what his #1 tip would be. And he said, no repeating passwords. So my advice is to keep up with your updates, put virus protection on your devices, and get strong and unique passwords.
I second that. I'm guilty of using, about 2.5 years ago, using the same password on everything, including my banking information. When my husband found out, he hit the roof. Yeah, so now, and then he taught me a little trick for almost like a pattern in a sense to use. And maybe that's not even right, but anyway, so I have this thing I do with all of them to keep them all different, but not that I can't remember. So anyway, yes, be careful.
Having a password manager honestly changed my life.
I use ClassPass too, and I do like it a lot.
Well, it is just like using your browser. Like when it just asks you what you want, do you want to put this in? And you go, okay.
Can the password manager be hacked as well? Is there any chance?
It can. It can. And actually, LastPass, I think, got hacked in 2016. But because they have so many layers, like so many more layers than we have of security, they actually only their security questions managed to get hacked before they completely shut it down. So yes, they can be, but it is that's their whole job. So they're really, they're on things, because I mean, as I say, everything can get hacked, but but they're really watching much more than we are, unfortunately.
Thank you, Marni.
No problem. Is there any other questions? Anything I can?
I think there was one in the chat. I don't know if you saw it.
I don't know that I did either.
Maybe you already answered this one. I went to the door. What do you recommend for your phone? I think this was.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. Thank you.
All right.
I don't have a question, but I just want to share this. But I got this email. I don't remember exactly the wording of it, but it was quite scary. But they told me they have a whole bunch of information on me. They have like pictures and they have access to my video camera. I started putting a piece of tape on it now, but and they basically said they want money and they're going to release this all online. If I don't know. They're saying they have all this information from me. Anyway, luckily I didn't see the email right away, because it was like, by the time I saw the email, it was like probably 2 months passed on. I'm like, well, if they would have done something, or going to do something, they would have done it by now, but I knew it was fake. But anyway, it was a pretty scary email.
Absolutely. A lot of things that come in now they do like to do that. That's one of the new things that they've been doing a lot lately. But I'm like you, I actually don't even have a camera. This isn't my regular computer where I do my work. My regular computer doesn't even have a camera. So covering your camera is not a bad idea at all times.
And also, I got a tip also for watching now for Canada Post emails, especially during COVID, everybody was ordering online. So I got so many fishy emails. You got a package from Canada Post with a link. So I always delete it. I didn't even open the email because I see that I can read the, the content on the side. So those are very, very probably scary emails.
Yeah, I've gotten that. PayPal and Amazon. Those are they're always coming through.
Yeah, I get lots from Amazon too.
But now I'm getting even text messages with links in them from
yeah, that's totally
Scotiabank or whatever. And I'm like, I don't even have a Scotiabank
Here's
account.
your refund.
Yeah.
the the scammers are they have lots of time to study and learn. I don't know where they have all this time. Yeah.
Could I ask that if you get an email scam and you open the email, but you don't necessarily click on their link that they're telling you to, just by opening the email, does that start something?
It depends,
Okay.
which is a terrible thing to say, but it really does. Like there are things that can happen from opening some emails. Most of them, though, you have to either click on something or open an attachment.
Okay. Okay. Good to
But
know,
there
because sometimes
are,
on the mobile, it doesn't show very much,
yeah,
so you don't know. Okay. I'll just know for those ones I'll open on my laptop because then you can see more before you open it. Okay. Thank you.
yeah, there are a few, but it's a lot less likely. Most of them go after things where they want you to go to a website or they want you to download something. Never download anything that's an exe file, because that's immediately going to give you something terrible. The ones that I always have to check are the PDFs, because I get real PDFs and then I get fake PDFs.